Hello everyone, and welcome back to the Biggening Corporation. We are on our 34th episode. Crazy. Where we left off yesterday, we got super close to finishing the bot buying process and possibly never to think about it again, which would be nifty. We'll probably revisit during a UI kind of tidy up and a special session that just focuses on UX and making the environment friendlier, tooltips and things like that. But from a functional standpoint, we were one item away from done, and we didn't quite finish it during yesterday's episode. So we're going to try to tackle that today. And we also have a secondary goal. I want to make it easier to support the fact that we will slowly over time need more things to happen during the company creation process for new players. And right now, the code in that section is a beast. It's ugly. It could be done a lot smarter. So I think we'll try to tackle that today. We'll see how far we get. Creating and posting item journals is not always my favorite thing, but on the bright side, we are not going to try to tackle today handling posting warehouse journal lines and then the following item journal lines as well. So we'll see where we get today. All right. So now what we had done yesterday is during the bot buying process in our wizard, we had called this purchase bot function. And the purchase bot now has some logic placed to charge the material costs to the player. If it is a cash type transaction, it will have no item number, and we have a new function to charge cash, and which cash account, which once again is currently hard-coded, not the best, but I am going to time-lapse all the various account usage throughout the system that needs to be moved off into game setup and tidy that up in one big push. And then we have the function that will be charging the materials, the item number, how many it's going to charge, and for which bot are we buying it for, so that way we can use that bot number as a document number. Alright, so if we go to our definition on this, we had created a little bit of a logic loop, just to recap here, that we calculate to go, okay, across all of our inventory, do we have enough? And if not, we'll throw an error. Now, once we know that we have enough across all the entire theoretical inventory of the player, we need to go through all the different locations where they might have items to consume those. They might be buying a bot that needs like 20 simple circuits or something, and 5 might be in one location, 5 in another, 3 or 4 in another. It could be a mess. So what we are going to then do is we built a loop that counts down through the amount that needs to be charged, and we had a little bit of a logic loop that we included to bail out if we get to the bottom and it still hasn't been sorted. And we also are going to try to take care of things by processing through all of the non-warehousing locations first. So that way it becomes very easy in the later game for a player who's pretty deep into the advanced ecosystem of the game. They could simply have a basic warehouse that stores all of their bot parts. Maybe down the road we might even give them some way of a preferred bot supply location or something like that, but we don't need to have that right from the start. So we're going to keep this simple and just try out the basic locations first. We did the math on how much we should pull out, and then we call a function to say, for this item, how much and what document number. And the rest we should be able to solve. So if we go to our definition for this, we hadn't done anything. So taking a look at the item journals, it's not terribly different from the GenJournal logic that we're going to be working with here. If you've never used the item journals before for any reason, you're new to the platform, whatever have you, when you're doing item journals, you can record different types, and most of the time, generally speaking, you're going to be doing positive adjustments to increase the inventory in stock, or negative adjustments to reduce the inventory in stock. Typically, you need your posting date, document number, item number, quantity if location is required, and it is very important to make sure you have your costing in here correctly as well. If you bring things in accidentally at zero cost and you're using some costing methodology in your company that does averages and things like that, you could get yourself into some hot water, and you're going to have to do some crazy application things to fix your error. If you use different unit measures, you also have to go very, very carefully. I have seen people accidentally create item journals where they brought things in pallets when they meant inches, and woohoo, that was a mess to unravel 2 years later. So yeah. Okay, so in our case, we're going to be doing a real simple situation where we are going to be doing a negative adjustment for, say, for example, simple circuits with the supplied location code that we are working on. And if, for example, we are pulling 3 out of this warehouse, it's just quantity 3. We don't say -3, that's implicit in the entry type. Now, the bright side for us is that the negative adjustment, we don't have to worry about the unit amounts or costs. Those are much bigger of a deal on the positive side because that's coming into the system. We could explicitly say which entry we're pulling that from. So if I did do that, then I thought it would maybe populate the unit amount and cost, but it's not. Okay, that's fine. In our case, we don't really need to worry about that. Let's just test this out. We're just going to post just 1 for now. 1, please. I believe, yeah, I didn't think there's a test report on this anymore. Yeah, okay. Yeah, that's fine. So if we just post this today, we can see that we didn't really have to populate a lot of fields, but just like the Gen Journal, there are lots of things that are implicit because we're on a page. So now if we go to our items, and we go to think. There we go. And we can see our simple circuits was at 100 even, and I bumped it down to 99. And we can just drill down on the quantity on hand, and we can see here's our negative adjustment entry. And I just kept the same document number. But you'll see that it came in and went out and all that sort of thing. So that's perfectly serviceable. Alright, cool. Excellent. I did bring them in at 0 cost, which is its own separate issue, but that's fine. We can ignore that for now. Okay, perfect. Alright, so the main things that we are going to need are going to be pretty similar to our Gen Journal setup, in that there is absolutely a journal template, there's a journal batch, and we should set both of those. We are going to set a line number, we're going to set an entry type rather than an account type, set the item number, document number, posting date, and amount, and I think location. Yeah, that's pretty everything. So it's very similar from what we needed to do here. Okay, so just thinking if we need a game setup. I don't think we do here. Let's do this so we have some sense of things. Alright, real quick, we are going to take a look again at which journal template and batch was involved when we came on in here. And part of why we're going to look at company setup is because if you've never opened the item journal, this batch doesn't exist. It gets generated the first time you open it. So if we are not having our players come here, that batch might not exist. So it's very much something we have to add to our setup a checklist for a new company. Alright, and as you can see, we are working with the item journal line, and even though it's not an on-screen field at all, there is absolutely journal templates behind the scenes that are driving what this line is. Other templates can include things like physical inventory journals and that sort of thing. So it is a very important field to have correct. But yeah. I always found it interesting that the batch name is not part of the primary key, but journals, they're weird. They haven't changed much in the 30 years, so it's fine. Okay, so we are going to, much like we assumed a couple of things over in the Gen journal, we are going to make some assumptions here in our item journal that the item template exists. And journal batch name, just like our item journal, we are going to make sure that we are all clear. The players should not be entering anything in these anyway, so there shouldn't be any entries in this. After all, if players could just add items into their inventory via Gen journals or item journals, that would pretty easily end all competition. So item and item journal. Boy. I admit it's times like this little chunk right here that I will miss the fact that with statements are dying. Implicit withs or explicit withs. Because once upon a time I could say with item journal and it would just know from context and I could save my dots. But no more. It's a good clarity improvement, but I do miss it from a laziness perspective. Okay, so line number is equal to 10,000. We'll have a brand new line. That's perfectly fine. And we are going to do entry type of our negative adjustment. Oh, yeah, that would help. We could go some interesting directions and say consumptions, but that would show up a little weird later on when we're trying to do our manufacturing financial analysis of did the product get consumed and that sort of thing. So we're going to skip it for now. Alright, and now we'll switch over to doing validate calls because we are going to pass it the item number. Let's do posting date first. Posting date is always our work date since that is our game date. And we are also going to validate the document number to our doc number. I don't think there's any validation on that, but hey, let's. And item number, and item journal. Now again, we're not doing anything with units of measure, so this is making it very, very simple. We can simply use the quantity fields. We never have to worry about the quantity base, the unit of measure. There are a lot of shortcuts that we're able to take in this series because of the assumptions that are built into this. Now, one of the things that we do not do here is we are called adjust out simple, but we didn't give it which location we're currently adjusting out from. So that's pretty important too. Let's cram this in here. Okay, number. I try to do variable names pretty much to match the source that they're coming from, but be distinct enough so that way we're not confusing ourselves later here. So we need to do, which I'm going to do location validation before the quantity validation, just to be safe here. Typically I validate primary key fields, master data fields, then quantity fields, then finally financial fields, if anything. So there's a little bit of logic that I implicitly do every time I do these sort of sequence of filling in values, much like English has rules about adjective orders and things like that. The big bad wolf rather than the bad big wolf. Same sort of implicit sequencing. So, alrighty. So we'll pass it the location code. From what location are we reducing? There we go. Alright. Now, we do the insert to create the item journal, and when we handled this up here, we did a commit, and then we did a post journal on that. And I am inclined to copy that logic just straight down and rename some things. So, like so, and then we need our code unit for the item journal post line. Short. And it's correct. I should call it that. Okay. Oh, I see. In our adjust out routine, we do not return a boolean. So we should add that. It's just a nice, in case for some reason the posting fails, we can catch that it does fail. But at this time we don't actually do anything with that for now. So we could though. Let's do. So if not, actually if it works, then reduce the remaining quantity to charge. That's cool. Yeah. Alright. I like that. That's easy enough. Cool. Theoretically, that should be ready to roll. Let's do it. Yay! First publish only about 20 minutes in. Sometimes we can go almost the whole episode. It varies. And, yeah. It's always sort of funny when we, if we were in a classroom, this would be the time we kind of just chitter-chat about how everyone's week is going, but can't do that. You're not here. Alright, that theoretically has gone through. Good, good. Now, yep, there we go. Just waiting for it to complain about someone changed it. That's fine. Tick, 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 tick. Alright, now, if we go to our bot list, now we should be able to purchase another purchasing bot. Buy bot. And we'll go to our robo-buyer that requires a batch of things. So this is going to deduct 2 Mendel parts and 1 simple circuit, in theory. I don't actually know that this will work. Let's see. Did we call the function? We called the function, because that tends to be my common thing. I write beautiful functions and forget to call them. Okay, and this purchasing bot won't be assigned to anything. We'll just say make it. Now, behind the scenes, it is generating the bot instance, it is posting a gen journal line, and it should be posting 2 item journal lines. So we have a little bit of posting going on. Allegedly purchased. Here it is, it got created. Let's go look at our item list. Did we do this right? Yeah, we did. Check this out. Negative adjustment, JQ. Pulled it from basic 20, where we had some in stock, and it used up the 2. And because there were costs associated with that, it deducted those automatically. We did not have to do anything about that. Brilliant. Alright. And there's our JQ. So it would probably be a good idea. I mean, we can tell just looking at this that this is, I mean, it's one of the only ways that stuff is going to be consumed via negative adjustment, that this is related to a bot purchase, but we should give some description around that. So just as a small tidy up thing, we are going to create a quick little token down here in our label, bot. Well, actually, we can't really do a token here because this is a generic charge code unit. So we should create a new function, or rather, a new parameter for charge cache that is the posting description. And we'll then fix the upstream effect of that, which I think posting description on Jnls is now a text 100. Cool. So let's fix that. And we are going to need this variable on our charge material, and also we will need this on the adjust out simple routine because we do the posting inside of here. So now we got lots of problems. That's fine. And for the description field, we will just set that description equals posting description right there. Okay. And yeah, that's fine. So just thinking about, do we have to do anything special other than pass in the values? No, we don't. Journal description, same thing, posting description. Okay, so that takes care of those errors. Now we should have a few because we are calling it from a few other places. So if we go look at our power management code unit where we're doing the call to handle the charges for power, we need to pass some posting descriptions for that. So let's see, power bot charge token label, and that is power charge for bot. Why? Actually, this is just going to be a sum for all the bots, so just power charges for bots. We don't even need to do any parameters. That's fine. The only parameter that would make sense is a date, and that's already a column. So okay, and then we need power charges for locations. That will work just fine. And here in this function called charge cache, this is where we're charging for bots. So we would just do power bot charge, and here we do power location charge. Great, that fixes those two. And now finally in the bot management here, now this one, we're in both cases charging for purchase of a bot, and we know which bot designation that's for, so a nice little new bot perch token label charge for purchase of %1. If they rename the bot with a new designator later, that's on them to figure this out. It's unlikely the players will even really need this information, but hey. And because this token has a %1 in it, we can't just pass it right through. We are going to wrap this up in a string subst number, and this will be bot designation. That way they get a nice little description about who is this charge for. Okay, cool. Charge material code, requirement to charge. Oh, I just straight up replaced one of the parameters. That's no good. I was looking at that line going, it seemed a little short. Alright, cool. Alright, I am going to call that done enough, because we can move on and do some other things. Be a little more interesting with ourselves. Alright, so I've got lots of things that depend on setups, and we handle that right now by the fact that when I, as a system administrator, create a new player, it copies all of the setup of all these different tables from our master company. And the code in which we're doing that right now is generously not pretty. Would be the nicest way I can put that. So if we take a look at this, we have this honking pile of all these variables, and then we have to do all these change company calls, and then we're doing this absolute mess of a process here. And the challenge around this one is that we're not only creating those entries in the target company, but we're also potentially updating them. So if something in my GL account or general business posting group changes in the master data company, I need to be able to push that replication out via the copy to functionality and do a mass update out to all the companies. Maybe there was a big catastrophic whoops in a gen posting setup and something is posting to the wrong account and we need it fixed in a hurry for everybody. Well, this handles that, because here we do a find set. If it already exists, we transfer field and then modify and we insert. But as you can see, every table that we add to this adds another pair of variables, the to and from, it adds a boolean, it adds a change company call, and then a very, very repeatable chunk of code. So I don't like that. I mean, it's hundreds of lines of extremely repetitious but difficult to replace code. And the challenge here is that if you've worked with BC development, you know that you can't just make a generic like record variable and say your inventory setup and then do the same transfer fields and modify and insert blah blah blah. Not really, but also kinda, yeah. And that's going to be our friend RecordRef and FieldRef, which I admit this will be a little clunky. I'm used to working with them, but they don't come up unless there's a specialized need for it. So what we are going to do is we're going to create a new function that handles copying, and all we want to do is supply it with a parameter of what table number, and that's it, and let it do the rest. So that's going to be a little bit crazy. And the result of doing that should be that this giant mass of 200 lines of code should just be about 20 or 30 lines where we say copy company data table 18 and such, whatever have you. So copy and we would also need to specify to which company. Copy to company table, and then we are just going to say Desc company name, and that'll be a text because that is, I believe, text 30. Because I believe company is text 30 as its primary key. We can check that in a sec just to be safe, but I believe so. So Desc company name and then table number. Okay, here begins a crazy voyage. So we're going to need a source RecRef, which is going to be a RecordRef. We are going to need a Desc RecordRef, which is going to be also a RecordRef. You'll notice that unlike record, we don't have to say what table is this for, because we are going to do something totally different. Alright, now just for a checking things so I don't goof things up here, real quick, company name is text 30. Yeah, okay. I just wanted to make sure that that was the correct thing to do. All right. So here's our funky thing. We are going to do source RecordRef open, which is like an assignment for this variable. And what this takes is the table number, whether or not it's a temp, and which company name. So we are going to open table number, false. I believe they're all optional after the table number. Yeah. So we can just say for our master company, just pass the table number. And then for our Desc record ref, we do the same, but we are going to open table number, false, and the Desc company name. So now these kind of would refer to, let's say for example, we're dealing with, we'll start with GL account as a good test one. That is table number 15, which I happen to know off the top of my head, but the way we're going to call this will be company, copy to company table, and then we'll do this little database, GL account. And that will pass it as this is kind of like an enum in a way, a dynamic one in a fashion. So that will resolve to 15. Oops. And we put the company name first. So Desc company name, which would be player company name. So let's do it like that. So what we should end up with is a big list of things like this. Gen posting setup. Cool. So now, theoretically, after we call this first one, source RecordRef is equivalent to having a record pointed to GL account. It's not quite the same though, so we're going to run into some funky things. So in our code up above, we can see, for example, that this is doing a, well, let's jump up to GL account. We do a find set, and for each record in here, we will then transfer fields and then either modify or insert as appropriate, depending on whether it exists or not. That's going to be a little trickier for us to do. It's not impossible, but it's a little trickier because I don't think we have. If you take a look, I don't think we get, nope, we don't. There is no transfer fields on a RecordRef. Hey! Which means that it is on us to do a field by field copy. Hooray! So we are going to need a source field ref, which is a separate little type, which is a similar concept. It is a reference to how a field exists. You can do some pretty cool stuff with these in combination. So let's start with if source recref, which now my autocomplete's going to be a little confused. We can still do find sets on our record in this way. So that's good. We're going to repeat until our source recref.next equals 0. Same as the record itself. That's perfectly fine. Now, our challenge is that within our loop, the very first thing we do is we do a Boolean to see if we can get a matching record in the target database, because we need to know whether or not that database already exists. We're going to probably handle that in a slightly different way, because I think we can be clever with our use of find. So, bearing that in mind, what we'll do is we now need to copy all the fields from source to dest, and we're going to need to loop through the fields manually ourselves because we don't have transfer fields. Yay. Okay. There are some, I believe there's an idea on the ideas website of please add transfer fields to the record ref type, and that is good to know. If you are using this in a production environment, be aware that when you copy a blob field over, just like with transfer fields, it gets real complicated. So if we were doing any blob fields in any of our tables, we would need to add some special handling for that, and I will show you on that in a moment. So now what we need to do to iterate through all the fields is we'll do a for loop. Yay, we don't do those too often in this. For field index is 1 indexed, like many things, to source record ref. Now we've got some field functions on here, and these are going to be our friends for field references, go figure. We need a count of the fields. And that will give us an integer of the total quantity of fields regardless of their field numbers. So we definitely need that. That's our loop. Now, we still need to have the field reference, which we have not initialized. And to get a field reference initialized, you have to do a source record ref dot field something or other. And if you look here, we can do it a couple of different key ways. One way we can get a field ref back is from this procedure field, where we pass it the field number, which is the number of the field that we assign in the table. So if you number field 100, even though it's the second field in the thing, you would pass this param in. But they give us a handy thing called index, which takes an integer, which corresponds to the sequence that field count gives us. So that way you can iterate through all of the fields in the table. And that's our friend for this. So we just pass this I. Now, the nice thing about that is we are copying and pasting from the same table, so we can, at the same exact time, do dest field ref equals our dest record ref field index and pass it the same I. Now, our destination record ref, we still haven't done anything except initialize it to which table, which company. We're not on a record in a fashion, but that's okay. So if we were trying to deal with blobs, this next part would be fairly different, but we can skip this. So what we need to do, however, is we need to copy only the fields that are actually storage fields, because now we're doing the heavy lifting ourselves. This is kind of how transfer to fields works. But in the source field ref, there is a parameter here for class that gets us field classes. The three options for this, you might remember, are normal, flow field, and flow filter. And we only need to copy our normal types. We don't need to copy flow fields or flow filters. So in fact, we can do an if on this. If source field ref dot class equals field class normal, then we'll begin. So if we have to worry about blobs, now within this we would need to go if source field ref dot type equals source field ref dot type, actually field type, my bad, field type. And now you can see here we have things like blob, GUID, media, all sorts of different things that we might have to handle some of these different field types differently. In fact, it would probably be advisable to do it as a case statement to handle your special cases, and then do an else for everything that is quote-unquote normal. I know blob, for example, is definitely a special case. You have to do some handling for transfer of that. I'm not sure about media and media set, to be honest with you. I haven't done a transfer field replacement with that one. But we are going to skip all that because I believe in all the tables that we're copying over, we don't really have any of those types of fields in any meaningful way that we need to worry about. So we'll just deal with that. And now, the actual transfer that needs to happen is our destination field reference dot value. Now, I should clarify here when we get the tooltip here. It's one of the rare places you'll see these sort of delightful tooltips. This gets or sets the value of the field, and it takes as a parameter a data type that is pretty uncommon, called Joker. If you've worked with other programming languages, this is almost the equivalent of saying any. We as developers, I don't think we can define that as an acceptable parameter type, but when you control the engine, you get to cheat a little. So we are going to set the value of this to the source RecordRef.value, which I believe we just treat it as a property. We don't even have to call this a function. Oops, source FieldRef. That helps. There we go. Okay, so now we iterate through all the fields for each of the records in the RecordRef table. Now we get into the fun challenge here of, okay, we've assigned all those values. How do we know whether we should insert or modify? Well, let's check something out. So we've got this Desc RecordRef. Can we have the ability on an insert to pop back a Boolean, and I'm wondering if we can cheat in this a little bit and say if not insert, then DeskRecordRef.modify. I'm not sure this will fly, to be honest with you. We'll try this. It could work. Let's find out. So that theoretically is that. And now we should be able to just pass it a sequence like this. So let's do that. Let's comment out the chunk of code up here for our GL account find set, and we are going to say we're going to copy which company? So from the current company into the GL account table. Let's publish, and we'll spin up a new company, and we'll see if the GL account functionality copies over. If it does, we can replace a whole lot of garbage code with just a nice little pretty chain of tables. And it'll be very easy when we go, oh, we need this table too. No problem. The nice thing about if it works this way with the if not insert then modify, if it works that way, then we can get around having to do any record checking. We could get around having to worry about primary keys because we're just transferring all that info. The real test of this is going to be if we copy to the same company again after changing something. So we'll try that more than anything else. Okay, so we're in test player 5. We should be in BC master data. I'm inclined to say let's test the modification right away, since that's the biggest question mark. I trust that the insert's going to work, but I'm not so sure about the modify. Hello? Well, that was weird. Okay, so if we come in and let's say we rename inventory to inventory goods for, just clarity's sake or something like that. We are in test player 5. That doesn't help us. We need to be in the we need to be in the master company for that. Alright, so I'll put it back to just regular old inventory here. Sure. Okay, now if we go to our master data company and we update our chart of accounts and we say, yeah, we'll do the inventory one. I don't know what's going on there with the fact that it's popping up and then disappearing. I'm going to assume something is just glitching on my machine. Inventory, raw. Just so that it's like super obvious, that's nothing I've ever named anything, so. Okay, yeah, there's some really weird popping under going on. I don't even want to talk about how many tabs I have open in Chrome in my other versions of Chrome on my other screen, so I can totally believe that my browser is losing its mind. Alright, so we select test player 5 and we say copy to. And this will take just a second or so. Hopefully we will get no error messages. That would be a good start. No error messages. Cool. But did it work? If so, then this ended up being a lot less scary than I thought. Alright. Chart of accounts. It did do exactly what we needed it to do. Huh. Okay. Neat. I'm pretty happy with that. And that's an interesting little side note. Last date modified is the real life date of this. So the audit fields that are on things automatically look at today, not work date, which I think is a good thing, but that's an interesting little side note. Okay, well that's cool. So there you go. How to copy one table to another in a modify safe way in one tiny little function call, and now we can just have a big monstrous list of all the company information that we want to copy over. Aha. That's neat. Arguably, one of the things that we could even go a little bit further with, which I might just go ahead and do, is we could create a new setup table that is data per company no, and we could say which tables should this run against and just loop through that record set. And then as a system administrator, we just go to that page and we check a box next to another table. I think we'll save that for another time, but I like that idea. And that way if we ever find like another table, we go, oh crud, we need, number series relationship too, geez. We just go to that screen, do a quick search on, number series, find the relationship table, and check the box. Yeah. Oh, I like that idea a lot. Now I think that through, because then this little code unit can be just this tiny little loop through the checked entries. Oh man, that'll be good. Okay. Alright, I dig that. Let's see if we can speedrun that in 10 minutes. Sure. I'm a little fired up over that one apparently. Alright, real quick, we're going to create BCS master tables. And this will be table number. And this will be a code, no integer. It's going to be based on the tables. And we are simply going to, actually we can just do that. Just table number. That's it. That's all we need. I'll show you why. Okay. So, what we will do then with this, and that got created in master company. Yep, that's perfect. That's fine. So master table list will be a new page off of this. and we are going to do something a little funky. Master table checklist. We're going to do this as a list and as a usage of administration. Sure, that's fine. Finish. Now, on this, the source table is going to be temporary, and this is going to come from. Oops. This is going to come from a table called all objects with caption. It's going to be funky. I like it. So we are going to have some procedures called get checked status, and we will pass it which table number, integer, begin, and we will do another procedure of set checked status. This is a rare, you're going to have to ride along and see how this all ties together, because this is fun. Alright, so now we'll do a master tables record variable, BCS master tables. Yep, and we're going to need that in both places. So come on down. Great. Alright, so get checked status, we are going to say master tables dot set range which table number on our primary key. Come on, table number, which table number? Yep, cool. If it is empty, we are actually going to need to spit back out Boolean, and we are also going to need to take a new status. Boolean. There we go. Whoop, almost forgot. I don't want to forget data per company is false on this, and let's see, I'm trying to squeeze all this in before the end of my time for today. So what we do is we just exit if not master tables.empty. So now what this will do, exits true if there's a record. There we go. And now if new status, and we don't have to compare to equals true. If the new status equals true on this set checked status, then if not master tables dot get on our which table number, then master tables dot which table number equals which table number, and insert. We can, just by the presence of the table number, know whether or not this should be included in our setup. So now we do if master tables dot get which table number, then master tables dot delete. And now we have a nice and simple way that we can display all object with caption where actually we can't do a where in source table. That's fine, we don't need to. We're going to do a trigger. We also didn't need source table temporary. That's going to be garbage. My bad. Trigger on open page. We want to rec.setRange on object type of object type table. There we go. And we want that to be an unremovable filter, so we'll use one of our earlier tricks of filter grouping. And filter group back down to 0. Yeah. So that was a nice unremovable filter on open page that now we will get only a list of which tables are in the system. And now with our Hello. Boy. What? There we go. Okay. We want to add the ID, name, and I like adding caption. I think it's a good thing to have. I didn't mean to clear that out. There we go. Okay. And then all we need to have is a little checklist, checkbox to say whether or not we want this line to be included. And we do have to tie that to a Boolean value. So we'll do a little var of line checked Boolean. I think we're going to make it in time. Holy moly. Alright, trigger. Despite my bad typing, it knew what I was talking about. On after get record, we set the line checked to equal get checked status for rec.objectID. Cool. And the only other thing to ask is, do we want the checkbox at the beginning? And I think I do. So, checked control is coming from line checked, and this will be an application brackets. Hello. Oy. Yeah. Application equals all, and then on this we just do a trigger to on validate. Because it's tied to a Boolean, we already get a nice simple set checked status for the object ID to the line checked value. Cool. Oh, that's going to be so easy. Oh my gosh. Okay. So let's publish real quick, because, yeah. Alright. Excellent. And we have this master table checklist. It is based off of all object with caption, so we'll see the table name and the display caption version of it. Cool. And then we should get a nice little checkbox to be able to set the tables we want to copy. I'll show you how crazy easy this code's about to be. Master table checklist. Check this out. We got to give it a caption to make it tidy, but now we can say, I want to copy the payment terms. I want to copy the GL account. And that's a really, really nice and easy way to present a huge amount of data. But if we go look at the table now, what's the table number on this? And there is a shortcut. We can just run that object from the Visual Studio Code. Waldo has it. If we look at the table, there's just 2 entries, and all it contains is which table numbers do we care about. So now we don't even have to do a find set or anything. We can, in this code unit, we can call this old copy to set up, sure, and we can just rename, we can, just because I want it there for reference of which tables, and I don't want to lose that. Old copy set up to company. I'm going to name the new variable player company, just because it's clearer that that's what we're kind of going for here. Begin, and we'll just do a var for the master tables, which is going to be a record of BCS master tables. And now we just do if master tables dot find set, set, then repeat until I'm excited and hurrying enough to not be paying attention to my snippets again. But now we've got this nice copy set up to company function. Yep, that's this one. Copy to company table. We just pass it the master tables dot table number, and we pass it the player company, which is player company comes first. Blam. Ta-da! So this whole procedure here, all, bajillion D lines of code that is in this thing, can go away. and be replaced with just this set of, what is it, probably about 10-15 lines there and a few lines up here, and now it's 100% setup driven. Oh, well, that's fun. And we just squeaked it in under the wire, and it is now time to wrap up the episode. Okay, well, that was not only less work than I was worried about with the field reference stuff here, but we ended up turbocharging the setup of this. Oh man, I love it. Okay, so now next time we're stupidly like cruising along and we go, geez, we need, in the master data company, we need the bin type codes. We just go, okay, no problem, master table, checklist, and we can do a search on our bin types, which will take a second because it's also parsing the caption, and we can go, well, you have to include the bin types now. Boop, done. Don't have to think about it. And we can uncheck it nice and easy, and it's gone from the setup too. Wow. Alrighty. That's pretty cool. I like it. Oh man. I know a couple of customers that would have loved to have that functionality quite a few years ago, actually. Okay, well, that seems like a bit more of a success of a day than I was expecting. I will definitely try to table of content to this one, because I think this episode we did a lot more things that are more generally useful and helpful. I do have it on my to-do pile probably this weekend upcoming to go back through older episodes and put tables of contents on things as well. So it is a little tricky for me to do that when I upload them, just because of the flow of the workday and everything. But yeah, we got a lot of good stuff done, and I'm thinking tomorrow I've got to get these roll centers less ghastly. I keep looking at them all the time going, I can't live like this. So, okay, well, I enjoyed this episode a lot more than I thought, and I hope you did too. And take care, everyone. Thanks for watching.